How are you, Chris?
What's happening, Rich?
What do you say to that poll question? LeBron James, year 1 through 4 or never to win a championship here with the Lakers?
I would say I give him a shot to win year 3. Year 3 is, when I think he'd still be playing at a high level. And year 3 might be when we see kind of a dissolution of Golden State. And that's as big a factor in LeBron's pursuit of a championship as anything he does in L.A.
Yeah, I think at some point, I tweeted this out, and I don't know if we're going to reach that for another day or two because this is still just such massive news to take in. At some point, the dust is going to have to settle, and we're going to all have to look around and see what moves or non-moves or people staying put, how that's actually brought people closer to beating the Warriors, right?
Yeah, I don't – in the Western Conference, I mean, look, when LeBron comes to the Western Conference, it's not a good day for Golden State. But the Warriors, woke up after the weekend and saw, Trevor Ariza, a key part of what Houston does on the Phoenix Suns. They'll probably get Clint Capella back, but that's not done at this point. And, LeBron James is in L.A., but they just surrounded him with, like, the island of misfit toys. Like, it's Lance, it's JaVale McGee, you're bringing back Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I mean, these are not, this is not the supporting cast that's going to get the Lakers very far in the postseason. So right now, Golden State's got to be pretty happy with the way the offseason's gone. So
are you surprised at the way the LeBron James decision 3.0 played out so quickly, Chris?
The speed of it, yes. I mean, I've been hearing, and I might have even said it on your show, but I've been hearing that it was going to go faster than the last one. The last one was, July 8th? Before that, July 11th. I had been hearing that he wanted to get it done. I was reading, Lee Jenkins' story on all this, and you understand why. Like, he was going on a European trip, and I think he wanted to have this settled. Plus, there are very strong indications that it was L.A. or Cleveland. And when I talked to people in Cleveland, I didn't get a overwhelming sense of optimism, from them. So, it was never anything reportable. But, the closer we got to July 1st, the more people, and myself included, that start to believe that L.A. was an overwhelming favorite were there.
So why do you think LeBron chose this spot? Because if it's just about purely winning, you'd think that maybe he had to figure out how to get himself to Houston, right? Might have been other places, as you just referred to the current roster around him as an island of misfit toys, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the first time in LeBron's career, basketball took a back seat. Winning championships anyway took a back seat to family lifestyle and off-the-court interests. I mean, Los Angeles for LeBron James is a nirvana. I mean, people that don't know LeBron, I mean, he's got his own production company, Spring Hill Entertainment. He's got his own social media platform, Uninterrupted. His people that are part of his brand there, they spend countless hours pitching shows to HBO, to Showtime. Now you move to Hollywood and you have access to far more people and far more options than you ever would before. And, you're working for Magic Johnson. Look, I have my questions about Magic Johnson's ability to put together a winner. Nobody can question Magic Johnson's business acumen. He has built a post-playing empire that rivals almost anybody from his generation. So, LeBron, I'm sure, is still going to be committed to winning, and I think he's going to spend this season either overtly or tacitly recruiting players to come play with him. But this decision was more about off-the-court interest than it was what he does on the floor.
Chris Mannix, Yahoo Sports, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's Kobe Altman doing today? Cleveland.
I don't know. I mean, he's in a tough spot. There's not a lot Cleveland can do, and they may have to start looking at, what teams like Philadelphia have done, teams like New York is currently doing, even Brooklyn, waiting out these bad contracts, being a bad basketball team, and hoping that you land on some of these draft picks. I mean, it starts with Colin Sexton. I wasn't a huge fan of that pick, mostly because I thought more teams should have taken a flyer on Michael Porter Jr., but you hope that he can turn into a starting point guard in this league, and you hope in the years to come some of these draft picks that you're bound to get are going to be effective. But honestly, Rich, there's not a lot he can do to make this team better. Right now, they're in that worst possible position where they're not bad enough yet to bottom out, and they're certainly not good enough to be any kind of threat maybe even to make the playoffs.
So I guess when it all comes down to it, Danny Ainge is popping champagne corks today that LeBron's out, and it's basically him and Philly, and let's see if Washington can improve. Obviously, Toronto loves the fact that LeBron's no longer in the conference. I mean, how does that stand, the Eastern Conference right now, do you think?
Yeah, there's now I think, a significant gap between Boston and everybody else. I mean, Philadelphia is good, but Boston beat them in 5 games, and they did it without Kyrie or Gordon Hayward. And Philadelphia, they just lost 2 key players for them in the second half of the season. That was Ilyasova and Bellinelli. Now, they brought J.J. Redick back, and that's huge. Maybe they can figure out Markelle Fultz to work out next season. But, I don't know if they take too big a step forward. Milwaukee, I love the Budenholzer hire, but they're not on Boston's level. Boston is by far and away, I think, the front runner to win the Eastern Conference. But, and I reported this a few weeks back, there's not going to be any overt celebrations in Boston until Kyrie Irving commits to that team long term. And that still remains a question mark.
Where does Kawhi stand right now? Where do you think that stands? Because obviously that could make a big difference on a lot of the stuff that we've talked about over the last couple minutes.
Yeah, this is going to be a methodical process. The Spurs, as we've known, and anyone that's checked in with them lately, are not in any rush. And one thing you have to remember about Kawhi, as desperate as the Lakers were a week ago, other teams are not. And I talked to an executive from a team interested just yesterday, and one thing he said was, if we're going to get really into this and make a serious offer, we need to spend days, if not weeks, digging into those medicals. We need to know if a guy that missed almost all of last season with a quad injury, who couldn't play when team doctors told him he could, if this injury is going to be recurring, if this injury is going to be chronic, we're not going to give up. This is what the executive told me. We're not going to give up anything significant until we have an answer to that question. So I don't think it happens in July. I don't think it happens till August or maybe even September, right before training camp.
Chris, have a great 4th, man. Have a great 4th. Appreciate the time. What a day it's been. I mean, the last couple of days, insane.
At least it happened before the 4th.
That's right. I know. So who's the next domino to fall? Is there anybody significant that can actually change the landscape, or we're done with landscape changing maneuvers, barring a Kawhi situation?
Well, 2 things quickly. The one is DeMarcus Cousins. What kind of contract does he get? Speaking of the medicals, there are teams out there that are wondering what, if anything, substantive they're going to get from DeMarcus Cousins. So the Pelicans are talking to him. The Lakers are going to talk to him, but the type of deal he gets is going to be interesting. And then, Rich, you're going to see a lot of guys with some interesting names get bargain basement deals. Does Dwight Howard get a veteran's minimum deal? Does Isaiah Thomas get a veteran's minimal deal? You're going to see teams, maybe not the super successful ones, but teams take flyers on these big names at incredibly short money.
Take care, Chris. Have a safe 4th. We'll chat down the line.
You got it, Rich.
You bet. That's Chris Mannix at Chris Mannix YS here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.